Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. We are going to take the next hour to discuss the Week 11 DraftKings slate, the main slate, with my chat on Twitch. We do this every Friday. It's kind of an AMA. We go over anything that they want to go over in NFL DFS for this week, whether it's strategy, game selection, tournament plays, optimizer stuff, price ranges, players, combinations, anything. We go over as many of the things that we can hit to try and prepare them and you watching on YouTube for this week's slate. I'm going to go through, I'm going to make a pick'em on Underdog Fantasy. We are going to take a look at the Smizz Gang Listener League. We're going to talk about basically everything that they want to talk about, and possibly we'll go over kind of the core, maybe for like a cash game this week, which I think at least the core 2-3 players that you should be starting from, I think are very obvious if you're playing in head-to-heads, 50-50s, or double-ups. Tournaments, play whatever you want, but I do suggest playing them a specific way by stacking, bring it back, correlating your lineups. Much easier to be right about one or two things than it is to be right about 4 or 6 different things, as we found out this entire year with the pick'ems on Underdog Fantasy. So thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, leave me a reply down below, and let's get to Week 11.
He's a legend.
Before I bring in the chat, I wanted to talk for a second, the same thing we talk about all the time, right? The Smizz Gang Listener League, smizzle.tv/league. There's a link down below. Like, it's the same link every week. You could type that into your URL. It'll take you right there. There's a link down below. If you go to smizzle.tv/links on my link tree, it's the first thing in the link tree. They made it bigger this week. We have 2,000 spots to fill, roughly. By the time the games kick off, $32,500 in the prize pool, $10 to enter, only 3 max, and absolutely no rake. I will talk about all the people in the top 10, shout them out on the recap video that comes out every Monday. We record that live on twitch.tv/al_smizzle, or you can just go to smizzle.tv/live. We talk about that every single Monday, and then that's on the second channel, Al Smizzle Games, here on YouTube, if you ever want to check that. I have to put on the second channel so it doesn't clog up the main channel with too many videos in one day, because Monday Night Football's on Monday, that video's there, and then the first look comes out on Monday, so I have to move that to the second channel. So if you want to see the recap with everything on how I do, and shout out the winners from the Smizz Gang Listener League, that's on channel 2. Let's bring in the chat, see what questions they have. And like I was saying, I kind of feel like cash games are a little bit straightforward. Can we get polls working, or are polls not working today? If polls aren't working, that's fine. I can kind of wing it, even though if the Twitch polls are not working. So like cash game quarterbacks, let's start there. Most of the show we talk about tournament strategy and how to attack GPPs, because that's what everybody likes to play in game selection and everything else. But like the 5 highest projected quarterbacks this week: Cam Newton, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Derek Carr, and Tua. So you've got 3 guys that are sub 6K: Tua, Carr, and Cam. And you have the 2 expensive quarterbacks: Patrick Mahomes, favorite on the highest team total of the week, and Lamar Jackson, who basically runs around the field and does a lot of Lamar Jackson things. I'm going to take a look over here at Fantasy Labs real quick, because they have their free Vegas page. You go over here, go to fantasylabs.com, NFL, the drop down to Vegas. That'll take you here. Great page for reference, right? So you can just sort by implied live. Highest totals on the week. This is what they expect this team to score, for those of you who don't know what this means. The Buccaneers, not on the slate. Kansas City, highest team total on the slate. They're expecting 29.3 points. Over is the over-under for the Chiefs. And they're only like 2.5 point favorites. So this is supposed to be a very close game, high scoring game as well. Great scoring environment. There's the Cowboys, 26.8. This was Thursday night, 27 for the Patriots. 27.3 for the Titans, 27.5 for the Browns. The Bills are at 28. Every week the Bills are like between 28 and 32. So those are your highest expected team totals. The Ravens down here at 25, but Lamar gives you that expanded rushing floor. Running quarterbacks always give you that, that little boost, because before they even throw a pass, they have an expectation of between 6 and 10 points just with their legs, especially a guy like Lamar or Hurts. or when right Kyler, but Kyler has not been that guy since like week 3. So I tend to go with my cash game quarterbacks on teams that have higher team totals, as opposed to like Cam at 23. The Dolphins are at 24. More scoring, more touchdowns usually means more fantasy points for quarterbacks. So chat, I'll kind of leave it to you who you guys want for your cash game quarterback. Looking for guys that typically are coming from offenses that expect to score more points is the route to go. And with the way that value has been the last few weeks, it's been extremely valuable. It's been extremely viable to pay like between $6,500 and $8,000 for your cash game quarterback. So chat's going to shout out who they want. We'll fill somebody in just a bit. Sharon, you like cheap quarterbacks? I used to like cheap quarterbacks for cash a ton because you had to pay up, and maybe that's going to be the way it goes, because as I've said before, DraftKings does ratchet up the pricing. Starting in about week 9 or 10, the pricing starts to creep up, and we've seen that. We've seen it start to happen, right? So like and it's not at quarterback. Quarterbacks tend to stay in the same ranges, but like Christian McCaffrey, we're seeing at $8,900 now. Taylor, $8,300. We have 4 running backs priced at $8,000 or above. Dalvin Cook, $82. Kamara might miss this week, which is going to create some value. Did not practice Thursday. Monitor the Friday practice report. As always, we'll know 90 minutes before lock whether he is active or inactive. If he's inactive, then we obviously know that Ingram is going to get the heavy dose of both the rushing and the pass game work out of the backfield. He will be the lead back and will be one of the primary values on the slate overall. If Alvin Kamara is out, he did miss Thursday's practice. But a lot of these other guys have been priced up as well. Nick Chubb at 7,800, 67, 68, 67, 7,000. We have not seen him this priced up since week 2 against Houston. We just haven't seen it. Right? Joe Mixon, 7,600. The price has trended upward. And I expect this to keep happening as the weeks move on until you start seeing Christian McCaffrey get to like 10K again, right? Where he started the season this high, then he got injured. Now he's down here. He's going to creep back up towards 10,000 because of what his usage is. And so just prepare yourselves as the weeks go on. Chat wants a cheap QB, and that's just fine. So chat wants a cheap QB. I saw a lot of Carr and I saw a lot of Tua. I'm going to plug in Carr for the sake of this lineup going up against Cincinnati. This game, I do believe, could be an offensive sluggo fest. Tua also in a fantastic spot because the Jets defense sucks and there's no two ways about that. And touchdowns lead more towards quarterback scoring than anything else. It's not about volume. It's really about scoring touchdowns. And I think that Las Vegas has slightly higher team total. Am I wrong about that? It might be like by a point. It's by half a point. They have a half a point higher. I would probably, if the value pops the way I think the value is going to pop this week, I think it's going to be more viable up in this range to go for a quarterback. Somebody like Tannehill, somebody like Dak at 72, possibly Russ at 65. But chat wants a sub 5, so we're going to go with that. Let me plug in Derek Carr, and we'll move back to some more questions. So, I don't know if you guys have been focusing, like we've said all year, on game selection. If you want to play tournaments, focus on those 100-man tournaments, at 200, 300-man tournaments. Much easier to win those than it is to win the mass multi-entry field. But the mass multi-entry fields, they have the big prizes. And if you're that type of player that wants to be a big game hunter, that's fine. Ashton, welcome to the chat. Another first-time chatter. What are my thoughts on Marcus Johnson for how cheap he is in tournament play and bringing back with Brandon Cooks? I love secondary stacks. I think they're great. And Johnson got a good amount of work last week, right? Now, it's going to be tough to predict whether or not that's going to sustain, right? The volume was fine. He did break off a 50-yarder. So, you don't need much at 3,500, right? You really don't. And if you're playing a stack for value, Deluge, thank you very much for the $50 donated to No Kid Hungry. Appreciate you, man. Guys, if you did not know, and I don't know how you wouldn't know unless you're fast forwarding through these videos, we are doing a fundraiser for No Kid Hungry this entire season, trying to raise $25,000 with matches from me at every $5,000 increment up until $25,000. We only have one left to go. I'm committed for $30,000 of my own dollars. The chat, the community has raised over $20,000 on their own. So be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. 1 in 6 kids in America are suffering from food insecurity, and we have the money to play daily fantasy. If this content, if you have won money, if you think you're a better player, if you have just enjoyed the content over the course of this year or the 10 years that I've been doing this, take a second, go to smizzle.tv/charity, and you can donate through Tiltify. I'll shout you out on stream. We'll get to that $20,000 mark, and I will donate another $10,000, making it $40K from me, $25K from you, $65,000 raised for the kids. As chat spams the feed the kids emote. Love it. My cash game. Let me talk about if I was playing cash games this week, and I'm basically a tournament only player. I'll finish this thought on Marcus Johnson first, though. So, like, everybody's out. They're going to have to throw the ball a little bit. The worry is that they don't need him. Kind of like the Bucks didn't need what's his name? Their receiver that was like 3,300 last week, Tyler. But if a player like Marcus Johnson, if you're starved for value, and I kind of feel like you're not going to be starved for value this week, but if you are, and you wanted to plug him in and he misses, let's say he has like 2 or 3 catches for like 25 or 30 yards. It's in the realm of possibility that could happen, right? If he does end up there, you're not missing by all that much. We're looking for like 10, 11 fantasy points out of him at this salary. Obviously, it would be better for tournaments if he had a lot more, but it's not about him. It's about what he can open up for you to get you those high dollar players that can really smash or break a slate. If you're using him as a bring back for Cooks, I totally get that because you need somebody. I do think that there's value in playing their running back as well with the running back situation that they have there. With McNichols, concussion was not at Thursday practice. We could see an even more expanded role for Deontay Foreman, who has looked pretty good when he's been handed the ball. And Houston's defense, albeit they give up a lot of points, they're kind of a middling defense against the run. If the Titans get up a lot at home, you know that they want to establish it. I could see him getting a solid amount of work in the pass game, somewhere between like 2 and 5 targets if McNichol is out for this game, because Adrian Peterson has looked like you kind of felt Adrian Peterson would look for this team. So the value is both with Deontay Foreman and with Johnson as well. Monitor Chet Rogers if you want. We're going to have to really take a look at this situation with Julio Jones on IR. But if they miss, if those value players miss, they get you like 5-6 points, it really doesn't kill you in those spots. I was going to say about my cash game philosophy for this week. It's somewhat simple. I talked about this on stream. I mentioned it on Fantasy Focus, the 06010 podcast as well. I could be wrong. It's very possible that I could be wrong with this. But looking at what the percentages are going to be and looking where players are going to go, I kind of feel like your cash game lineups this week have to start here. I really do. Kyle, thank you very much for the $10 donated to No Kid Hungry. Appreciate you, man. I kind of feel like they have to start here. That leaves you, if you want a third running back, if you want to go for that, fine. Christian McCaffrey has basically smashed every single week that he's gotten volume. He was at 50% of snaps against New England in his first game back. He played less snaps last week because they were trouncing Arizona, and he did not get the bonus in any game this year, either through the air or on the ground. He fell on the 1-yard line twice last week. 25 points is his expectation, guys. That's like the realistic expectation on volume alone. If he finds his way into the end zone, if he gets the 100-yard bonus, you're talking about a 35 to 40 point fantasy day. I'm more in favor in cash games of taking a player like that and then letting somebody else figure out where they're going to make up those 30 points and they can hope that they get there. The other one is A.J. Dillon, who we can probably expect to get the lion's share of the work with Jones out, and this is a great spot for him also. And look, if a player is going to be 60-70% in cash, you don't have to galaxy brain it, guys. Just play that guy. If he fails, if AJ Dillon leaves the game in the first quarter, if AJ Dillon has 6 fantasy points, but he's 70% played in 50-50s, you can beat people somewhere else. But if AJ Dillon does what he's supposed to do for 6,200 and gets you 18 to 20 fantasy points, why are you galaxy braining that in a game where you don't have to be faster than the bear? You just got to beat half the field. It's got to be, I don't got to be faster than the bear. It's going to be faster than you. So like, you want those high floor players. And if you can insulate yourself by taking a player like AJ Dillon for the block, to me, it's very worthwhile. Sheep price is falling. God, I love Wolf Game. That's a whole other video. That video is on the second channel. Any interest in David Montgomery and Devontae? I don't really have interest in Freeman. I do think Montgomery is fine. I think that, look, there's a lot of running backs, right? It feels like every single week there's a lot of running backs in that $6,500 and down price point that are extremely viable. So if we go back over, let's just start at 7,000, shall we? Swift is 7K. He's averaging 18.4 fantasy points per game. Very involved in the passing game, 5 or more targets in every single game this year. Really high floor, really good usage, and has scored enough touchdowns on a very bad team to make him tournament viable as well. So he's got good upside as well as a really good floor for 7K. AJ Dillon, we've already talked about. James Conner, 6,100. He might be at that same level as Dillon at 6,100, considering that, like, I think there's going to be people that are going to say, you know what, he only carried the ball 10 times last week. Of course he carried the ball 10 times last week. They were getting curb stomped by Carolina. And now he is getting more usage in the passing game, still getting those inside the 5 carries. So he has an increased floor, still carries with him that touchdown upside, and probably they're not going to lose by 35 again. So, or get down 30 points again. So he's in play. Michael Carter has seen an expanded usage on the ground and great usage through the air. And Miami's defense has not been as stellar as you would hope. And yeah, I know Joe Flacco and whatever, but like, fine. The other side of that coin, Myles Gaskin has not been efficient at running the ball at all because Miami's offensive line is the worst one in the league. And like, if there's a Miami fan that wants to argue with me, they're not the worst. This other team's actually technically a little bit worse in this one metric. Fine, they're the second worst offense. Like, they're not good. And so Myles Gaskin has not been able to run for the same average yards per carry as he was last year because this is a bad offensive line. Enter the Jets run defense. It's allowing 39 fantasy points per game to opposing running backs, and Myles Gaskin is going to be somewhat popular this week. We still have the Chiefs running back. Whether it is going to be Darrell Williams or whether it's going to be CEH, we'll have to find out. And then you also have David Montgomery at 5,500, who got all of the volume when he came back over Khalil Herbert. He's only 5,500 at home. But against Baltimore, whose defense has not been what it used to be, but they're still not trash. And Mark Ingram, if Kamara sits out, is going to get a ton of work. So, like, that's a lot. Dime Easy, thank you for the $25. FNA TV, thank you for the $5. Everything you teach helped me win $64 in a $1 tournament. Thank you for the New England defense and feed the kids. There we go. Love to see it. Is Darrell Williams someone I consider being in my Mahomes pool? No. I will not. I believe he had an outlier week last week. I think that I'm going to couch the rest of this statement here with if CEH is still out. Because if CEH is back, it's a different story. He's not a 9 target a game running back. He's not CMC. He's not Alvin Kamara. So that 9 targets that he got last week against Las Vegas was, when the Chiefs palindromed the Raiders, was not something that's sustainable for him, right? He's more of a 4-target guy. And when Mahomes throws it 40 to 45 times a game, that's less than a 10% market share. I'm not going to be including guys in a player pool who get an 8% market share. Now, if it's CMC and you're playing Cam and you're like, look, I want to play Cam in tournaments and I want to double stack Cam. Yes, including CMC and like DJ Moore or a pass catcher, an outside pass catcher, tight end or wide receiver. When CMC gets 20 to 25% of the targets for that team, that makes a lot more sense. You know? So like, usually if I'm double stacking quarterbacks, it's to get away from running back chalk. So if AJ Dillon is going to be as highly played as he is this week, and he's projected between like 35 and 40% in the Millionaire Maker, which is a ridiculously high number. If I'm going to double stack Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be to get away from the AJ Dillon chalk. So I will probably not be including AJ Dillon in my Aaron Rodgers double stacks. That's just kind of the way that it's going to go. Parking Martian tempting the chat. $80 to snipe 20,420 and 69 cents. Nice. What about Zeke with Dak? Probably not going to include him, but Zeke's not chalk yet. I don't think he's ever going to be chalk because of I don't think he's going to be chalk in week 11. Not ever. He's not going to be chalk in week 11 because of all those other running backs. I just ran through like 8 running backs that I was talking to you about, right? We talked about 8 running backs between 7K and 5K. I mentioned Foreman earlier at 4.7 or 4.8. Like, there's a lot. There's so much running back value that like all the high dollar guys, aside from CMC is going to probably be the highest high dollar guy played. Taylor? Nope. People aren't going to be on him. On the road at Buffalo, when I can just get these other running backs, not going to play him. Dalvin Cook? Are you kidding me? Against Green Bay's defense? They're not going to play him. Nick Chubb? He doesn't catch any passes. Not going to play him. All these guys. Ezekiel Elliott, 7,700. I could pay 5,700 and get somebody. Dallas Jayhawk with the $80. Thank you for the donation. Appreciate that, Dallas Jayhawk. Are we at the meme? Yep, $20,420 and 69 cents. Y'all can see it. It's right there. It's right there. Nice. Dell Williams is popping in the optimizer. Well, so optimizers are going to do what the math says to do. They don't make choices. Optimizers don't make choices for you. Optimizers just play things. If you tell it to stuff in the highest projected plays, it's going to just stuff in the highest. If you sort it by ceiling, it's going to do that. If you sort it by floor, it's going to do that. And right now, the projections are being made with the thought that CEH is out. If CEH comes back, that's going to drop Williams' projection. That's going to make him not pop up in optimizers anymore. What about Foreman? He seems to be the last man alive. Look, I am always on board with last man in lineups. I'm never going to be against last man in lineups. If you get everything you want and then I had this much salary remaining and this other player became my last man in, I'm not going to tell you can't do that, right? I ended up with a lineup last night in NBA that was built the exact same way, right? Now, I played it in high stakes. It's a small field tournament, right? But like, I ended up coming in third. Congratulations to Hoop, old friend. He took it down. Congratulations to him. This is like a 20-person tournament, right? 20-man tournament, high stakes, $2,000 entry fee. I had Beverly, Russell, Butler, Vanderbilt, Bam, who did not end up doing well. I was struggling between like a 2v2 with Bam. I wanted to get Jokic, and I would have scored a lot more points if I had Jokic. Wanted Edwards. And then I needed a 3K guy, and the other 3K guy was a forward. Birch had to go in the utility. I hated Boucher. I did not want to play Boucher. And I had like 6,400 remaining. Keldon Johnson wasn't a great play last night, but he was the highest projected and highest ceiling play under 6,400. So he was like the last man into that lineup. So like, I'm fine with a last man in. If everything else is what you want, it's fine to play that last guy as a last man in at a salary price point. Tonight's NBA is going to be insane. Why? You know how I've been playing NBA this year. I'm just playing like high stakes, straight off the ETR projections. Lots of iron Q tags. Interesting. Can we look at some other low dollar wide receivers? Throw some names in chat. Otherwise, it's just me rattling off stuff. Because, like, I don't think the value is there. You know? I really don't think that the value is sub 4K. There will be some guys that are sub 4K, like Johnson's sub 4K, but I don't think there's very much down there. Like, I think a lot of the value is in the mid-range, as it has been for like weeks, right? Like, that's where the value's been. Like, there's all these guys up here. I think the people are going to pay for Adams. I think people are going to pay for Hill. I think people might pay for Diggs, which leaves Jefferson as the last man out again. So like 6,500 and down. 6,500 to like 5,000. That's been the meat of the value bell curve, right? That's been kind of where we've been. So Devonta Smith has been very good. Amari Cooper in that shootout at 6,200. Very good. Pittman, albeit against Buffalo, and Buffalo gives up a lot more on the inside than the outside, right? Like, Buffalo is very tough against perimeter receivers, a little bit softer in the middle. Cooks at 6K, Lockett at 6K, like both of them. Does DJ Moore see a resurgence with Cam Newton or not? That's really the question that we're having to ask ourselves. And I've said forever that, like, daily fantasy, much like poker, is a game of partial information. We're not going to know what the Carolina Panthers game plan is going into this weekend. Not going to know. Not going to know. They're going to know. No, we're not going to know. DJ Moore might get 7 to 12 targets. DJ Moore might turn out like the receivers on New England last year when Cam was running the show. Hopefully Cam's shoulder is up to snuff. And we can see the DJ Moore that we want to see, but we're going to have to wait and see. Renfro looks fine, but not very much upside. Kirk with Nuke out looks like another good play for him, right in that kind of 12 to 18 point expectation. Waddle in the same boat. This is where the value is at wide receiver. T. Higgins probably going to be the highest played player in this range. Once again, Manny Sanders at 5,300. Probably not going to have Jones in there. Where is he higher? Where's Bees? Like, Beasley's 48. Coming off of a 2-target game. This might be a really good spot for Beasley. Like, this is an interesting spot for Beasley. What do we have here? So I've got... Sorry, I'm looking through notes over here. The Colts play zone on 60.2% of opponents' quarterback dropbacks. We know that Beasley gets more yards per catch, has a higher YPA against zone than he does man. You know, he understands how to play against a zone defense. He's not great at beating cornerbacks against man. The league average is like 55th. So like, they play it slightly more than the league average, the Colts, but on the season, they've been very bad. It's like, this is what I'm saying. It's game of partial information. We don't know what's what, so to speak, like in total. Indy allows the highest touchdown rate when they're playing zone in the league. 5.3% of attempts against their zone defense end up in touchdowns. 67.1% of the passing yards against Indianapolis have come when they are in zone. That's the 7th highest total in the league. But there's a but. There's always a but, right? They've done much better the last 3 games. They've not allowed a touchdown pass when they've been in zone in 3 of their last 5 games. And they had given up 1 in each of their first 5 games. So like if we go over to like the Colts defense to kind of flesh this out a little bit, which is probably down here. I have no idea where the Colts defense is. There. San Francisco didn't give up a lot through the air to them. Jacksonville, they played Houston. So like part of that seems to be the defenses that they've played. Right? Part of that seems to be the defense that they've played. They're not playing that defense now. Or they're not playing that offense now. Not defense. So, like, now they're playing Josh Allen. And Josh Allen ranks 8th in points per attempt versus zone out of all quarterbacks. So, this could be a spot, you know, if Beasley's there, that he takes off, you know, monitor the situation. He practiced on Wednesday. Check out the Friday practice reports. If Beasley goes, this is a very interesting spot for Beasley. And what is his projection on what they think he's going to be in the Millionaire Maker? He's projected at like 8%. So whether you're going to use him as a secondary stack or whether you're planning to use him as like as a part of an Allen stack, I think he's kind of interesting this week. Do we do the rest of the cash game build out for receivers? I mean, your cash game wide receiver is going to be Higgins. That's it. $3,300 Carter has finished as a top 24 wide receiver. He's been good, right? Like, they needed somebody on the other side. It's obviously Hump is not the guy, right? He's not that guy, pal. That's just who he is. So like looking at Washington and taking specifically a look, like Ricky Seals-Jones, Logan Thomas, who the hell's going to play? Sammis Reyes. The Bates Motel. Who are you going to throw the ball to? So, like, obviously, player like Carter getting 6 targets a game. Now, I want you to remove these touchdowns. I feel like you have to. Because otherwise you get this false sense of security. Oh, he's 3,300 in the last 2 weeks. He's averaging 14.5 points. Yeah, with a touchdown in each game, and touchdowns are extremely highly variant. And if you're going to be depending on them for 2x of that $3,000 salary, this is what you can count on. This is what you can count on. This is a bonus. I think that's how you have to think about cheap quarterbacks. Cheap wide receivers. And obviously we still have Curtis Samuel dealing with that groin injury. His own, we hope. Farron Bates is a bring back from CMC. You know what? There's way worse ways you can go for value. Tight end is a weird position. In terms of fantasy, especially on DraftKings, right? So like the easiest way to differentiate from the field in a large field tournament is to just hit that tight end spot and hit it hard. So guys like Kelsey, by the way, having come back to the field this year, he's still the number 1 tight end in fantasy for like the 6th straight year, which is obscene and absurd in its own right. But last year he was averaging like 24 fantasy points per game, and this year he's at 17.5. So him not separating as much from the field as he was before, and Andrews being pretty solid at 6,000, but up and down weeks, whether or not he hangs on to or drops a touchdown pass. Kittle has looked interesting. since he came back from injury, getting 15 targets in the last 2 games and fitting right into that, 16 to 22 point mold. And you're getting a little bit of a discount from Kelsey. But we've seen other tight ends kind of step up, right? Where Gronklin has been getting a good amount of volume and paying off that salary, but now it's come up. Where Dan Arnold is getting top tier volume and getting 14, 10, 13 fantasy points per game each of the last 3 weeks on extremely heavy volume at the position, finally priced up to 4,100. I think that most people are going to pay 4,100 or more at tight end this week, which I really do agree with you that it opens up some of these super cheap options at tight end. One of them being the Bates Motel. You're not going to get a huge day, right? Planning for a huge day, you're not going to get it. But if you're looking for easy correlation and looking for salary relief to allow you to spend up at other positions that have a 25 to a 30 point ceiling, that's how we get it. This is what we did 3 weeks ago with Dan Arnold when people were laughing. Oh, you're going to play Dan Arnold? He's not a great athlete. I don't care. I just care about playing time and volume. And if Bates is going to be on the field for the entire game in the absence of Thomas, in the absence of Ricky Seals-Jones, and he's going to get the majority of snaps, the majority of routes run, as they do in Washington. We saw Thomas leave, and then we saw RSJ step into an extremely fantasy-friendly tight end role. If he leaves and they utilize Bates and deploy him in the same way that they deployed Thomas and RSJ, Bates becomes a fantastic value. Even though he might only get you like 7 points, he could also get you 4 or 5 catches for 45 yards, and maybe he wanders into the painted area and makes it an absolute smash. I'm not counting on 15 points from him. He would need a touchdown to get there. But like, you could do worse for value, or a part of a value secondary stack with like CMC to open things up, if that's the route that you wanted to go in tournaments, because he will not carry a very high percentage at all. Don't you dare exclude Griffin. There, he was included. ETR is Bates for 1.64 points. You might get a hold of like they'll update their project again. It's what do they project the other tight ends for? Check Goddard's update. He just signed a long-term contract. What's his update? Goddard concussion is signing a 4-year contract. Yeah, it's about right. Yeah, see, they've still got RSJ as in. Bates is only a play if RSJ is out, guys. I mean, I went through that whole thing, but like, if RSJ is playing, you're not playing Bates. Okay? That's it. ETR still has RSJ as in. Yes. Just like sites still have CEH as out. As news changes, it will change everything else. Cole freaking Komet, you mean the non-copyright frog? Yes. He's already been ruled out. That's what I'm operating under. That's why I just did that whole thing. We're talking about projections. Let's look at Kansas City to kind of, so I can drive this point home. I don't care what projections you use. I know what I use. I've talked about it at length. CEH is on the IR. He said Wednesday the team wants to see how he performs in practice before making a decision on whether to activate him or not before Sunday's game. Right now, the projections have Darrell Williams as a really good play and a really good projection, especially as a point per dollar play, because he is being projected as if CEH is out. I'm saying that projections have not updated yet, and they still have RSJ as in, as you could tell by them having RSJ with 7 point something points. So as soon as, or if, the Chiefs decide to activate Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the projection on Williams is going to change. And yes, they have already, the Washington football team has already determined that RSJ is out. You kind of have to wonder if people that are putting out projections, because they don't want to yo-yo their projections all over the place, are waiting to see if the football team activates Logan Thomas or not. If they don't, and Thomas and Seals-Jones are out, then they will reallocate their projections and their target percentages and their snap percentages and everything else, and it will appear that Bates will probably be the guy that steps into a large snap and target role, and it will change. Same as that Williams CEH projection will also change. That was my point. With Jared Goff not practicing today for the third straight day, Tim Boyle is in line to start Sunday. Ew. At which point Bates will be 87% played. I don't know. I think you can get to the higher price guys. I really do. I think that you can build a lineup that gets you to the higher price guys, but he makes sense. Bates does make sense if you can kind of get there. Are we still treating Kelsey as a wide receiver, therefore flexing a tight end? You can, but I think there's more. As I just kind of mentioned, I think that Waller's in a fantastic spot against Cincinnati, who gives up the majority. Not the majority. They give up a much higher completion percentage between the hashes than they do outside. That's where Waller patrols, and especially in the short sub 10-yard A-dot range. Kittle, 15 targets the last 2 weeks and playing against Jacksonville. Andrews is a great spot this week and makes for a fantastic secondary stack. And Travis Kelce. Like, I think people are going to pay up at tight end this week. But if the motel is 2,500 and you want to stuff that one extra player in there at wide receiver, it makes a lot of sense. Swift getting 1 million carries? Yeah. How do I view KC's ancillary receivers? With my fingers firmly on my nose.
He's a legend.
Citadel, thank you for the 21 months. I hate the other receivers in Canada. I have nothing against them personally. I'm sure they're great people and fine, upstanding members of society. You know? I'm sure they are upstanding young men. Very charitable, very kind. They help old ladies cross the street. All those sorts of things. But like, Mecole Hardman's out there running wind sprints, and Pringle and Robinson eat up the other 40-50% of the snaps. You're basically playing one of these guys in a double stack, hoping against hope that they happen to find the end zone randomly on 2 or 3 targets, because they don't get very much work at all, right? Hardman, 3, 6, 7, 5, does absolutely nothing with it. I can't believe that somebody can play that many snaps, run that many routes in the Chiefs offense with Patrick Mahomes active and do as little as Mecole Hardman has done. And Pringle's been good anytime he's ever seen the field, but he doesn't see the field enough. He is 3,400. I'm okay with a flyer on him. Robinson seems to do great things anytime he's given a chance. In terms of, when I say a chance, like a lot of snaps. Remember, like last year, anytime that Sammy Watkins was out, Robinson would play a ton of snaps. It was not Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman played behind Tyreek Hill. And so they used somebody else on the other side, and it was Robinson. Robinson had some really solid games last year in the absence of Sammy Watkins. But like, now they've just gone another route. Like, you know what? We're just going speed, and we're going Mecole over here who does nothing. And we're going Tyreek over here who's amazing. And there's no thunder and lightning to it at all. And Pringle's too small, I guess, to play the whole game. I guess Pringle's my favorite out of that group, but I'm not happy about it. Like, I'm not happy about it even a little bit. Hardman getting less because of his fumbles and his drops. Josh Gordon's season, we've been waiting for that for 8 years. Maybe this is the week. It's like Homer Simpson in the dog episode when he's trying to eat the pork rinds and the dogs keep coming by. Hump. This time. Hump. We're all waiting for that. We've been waiting for it for years. But you guys don't have to wait for kickoff because it's coming up really, really soon. Less than 48 hours away. Thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the notifications bell. Leave me a reply down below. Make sure that you text a friend. Find out how they're doing. And call your mother. She can't wait to hear from you. And look out for one more video right over my face.
He's a legend.